few more stories here. One of them, this is, I think, is one of my most messed up Navy stories. Navy guys out at sea have a tendency to go kind of extreme with language and stuff like that. There was a guy, electrician, Tim. His nickname was Squealer, and I'm going to send a copy of this to him just to remind him about this story. And anyway, we're out to sea, and one day Squealer, and his nickname was Squealer because if you wrestled him and got him in a hold, he would go ah! He would start squealing. And but anyway, Squealer made a comment one day that yeah, I effed your mom. And I said, dude, you don't want to talk about my mom like that. And he says, why, you're gonna kick my ass? And I said, no, you don't know what my mom looks like. And so I had asked my mom to send me a picture, and previous to that. But anyway, when the picture came in, it takes forever to get mail out at sea. You're halfway across the world, and anyway, it takes a while. So I finally got the picture in, and I go over to Squealer, and I said, dude, do you remember that comment you made about my mom? And he starts over again. Oh yeah, I did her last night, and all kinds of stuff, and getting into details about what he did supposedly to my mom when she's back in the States and we're out at sea in the Mediterranean. But anyway, he's going off about it, and I said, dude, I told you shouldn't talk like that about my mom. And he says, oh, are you gonna kick my ass? He said it again. I said, no, I'm gonna show you a picture of her. Now, my mom had not taken very good care of herself. And although she was, at that time, she was probably only about 45 years old, but she was very heavy and, again, didn't take care of herself very well. And so I showed him the picture, and the guys around him all went, ew! And Squealer says, she's beautiful. Can I keep this picture? I was like, sure, dude, whatever. And I told my mom about this, and she was like, oh, happy, whatever. Whatever it takes to keep a sailor happy, I'm all right with that. And but anyway, 2.5 years later, the painters come down to paint our berthing complex. And they got to tape everything out that's not going to get paint on it, and put up plastic, whatever, it's not going to get paint on it. And they came over to me, and they're like, dude, I don't know what to do. There's somebody left a picture hanging above their rack. I was like, well, let me see it. And so they took me over and they showed me, and I look up and it's a picture of my mom. I said, oh, that's a picture of my mom. And they said, oh, this is your rack? I said, no. So Squealer kept this picture of my mom above his rack for like 2.5 years. And just disturbing what he may have been doing while staring at that picture of my mom for that long. But anyway, Squealer, got you on that one. Anyway, a lot of fun stories. Again, most of the really, really good ones, I can't even tell. Anyway, share this with people. Again, subscribe, hit the bell, so you can get notifications. The website, www.thealternaterealitybook.com. Visit my website, and have a good day. So another one of the stories, I'm trying to think of what stories I could tell, and most of them are too bad, too messed up. So it's hard to figure out what I can say here and what I can't. But this is one of them when I was in the Navy, and went to France, and I ended up picking up a beautiful young lady, and we were talking, and she wanted to go to a dance club, and I wanted to go to a dance club too. Well, there are two guys from my ship who were standing right there when we decided to go to a dance club, and they said, oh, can we go too? And she said, yeah, sure. So she had this little tiny car. We get in the car, and the guy sitting in the front, his nickname was Stretch because he was 6'7". She's got this little VW like Rabbit type car. In Europe, they all have really tiny cars. So I'm sitting behind her, and the damage control assistant, which is like 1 or 2 steps below the chief engineer on the ship, is sitting next to me. And she starts driving on the way to the club, and he says, "Yeah, I guess my division officer, the last name was Solo." He said, "Oh yeah, I guess I'm going to find out if these stories Solo's always saying that are a bunch of BS that you're always telling are true or not." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Oh, Solo's always saying that you're telling these stories about these girls and stuff, and there's no way it could be true." I was like, "Oh, really?" So I reached up, I started massaging her, and I started fondling her, and she ended up getting lost and having the big O while we're driving to the dance club, and he was like, "Holy crap!" So we go to the dance club, and her and I are dancing. They're just sitting there drinking a beer, and afterwards, she says, "Let's go back to my place." I said, "Okay." So we get back in the car, we go to her place, and I told them, I said, "Hey, we're going back to her place." So they came with because they needed a ride. They had no idea where we were. And so we go back to her place, and we go in, she tells them, "You two sit right here." So they sit on the couch, and her and I go into the bedroom, where we spend about the next 3 hours. For some reason, the 2 guys out there got mad because they had to listen to us for like 3 hours. And then finally they came and knocked on the door, and they're like, "We got to get back to the ship because we have to be back by a certain time." And especially the guy who's like 1 or 2 steps below the chief engineer. He's pretty important that he's there and on time. Because the ship had a rule that at 7 a.m. they pull up the brow, and if you're not on the ship, you're in trouble. And so we get back to the ship just barely in time. They're starting to lift the brow. We run on it while they're lifting it, and they yelled at us, but we were there on time. And I go over to where my division is, and I'm standing there. I got a big smile on my face, and I guess he went straight down to Solo, because Solo comes up and he says, I can't even remember the DCA's name, but he said, "Mr. So-and-so said that I owe you a big apology." And I said, "For what?" He said, "I don't know yet, but he told me that I owe you a huge apology. So I'll find out later." And of course he found out the story later, what happened. And so eventually I got a big apology from my division officer for spreading rumors that my stories were nothing but a bunch of BS. Also in France, there was a time I had duty. The day before, I had picked up a beautiful French female, and so this day I have duty, which means you have to be there 24 hours. And usually we would go into 3-section duty, so 1/3 of the people in our department had to stay on the boat to make sure the boat is in operation and running and stuff. And so late at night, a bunch of guys come back from being out on town, and this one guy, Dave, starts telling this story about this girl that he ran into. And he's telling everybody about her, and she's blonde and short blonde hair and very beautiful, and he's telling stories about her. And I said, "She's not blonde, she's a redhead." And he says, no, she was a blonde." And he's going on and on telling more stories, and I said, no, you don't understand, she's not a blonde, she's a redhead. He's like, "You weren't even there, how do you know?" I said, "I'll tell you what, you pull out the piece of paper with her name and phone number, and we'll compare." So we put them on the table, and it's the exact same girl that I was with the night before with the DCA and Stretch. And at that point, I looked at him and I said, "Look, dude, she might be blonde up here, but she's not a blonde. She was a redhead. And by the way, how did my taste? He got so mad. So anyway, I'm probably going to have to bleep that out. I got to figure out how to bleep stuff out. I have no idea how to edit videos yet, so I apologize for my lack of editing skills. But that was the second half of that story. So stay tuned for some more. I've got a video of on my ship. A lot of us were really into professional wrestling, especially Ric Flair. Big fans of Ric Flair. But anyway, me and my friend Dan Burris, the big boss Dan, we got this piece of aluminum shim. What it was a piece of aluminum about that big around, a bar. And we sliced it about that thick, and then we had it engraved. Our ship was the USS Mississippi, and we called it, we engraved on there, Mississippi Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. And we riveted it on the back of a weight belt, and then we wear our weight belts backwards like a championship wrestling belt. And so we started this whole wrestling thing, and we would do videos talking crap to the guys that we wanted to challenge. And this is back when the wrestling had the Four Horsemen, which was Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and they always had, Lex Luger or some other guy was always the fourth guy. But so we got our four, instead of Four Horsemen, you call the rack where you sleep, your bed, a pit. So we called ourselves the Four Pit Men. And I've got videos of this, and I've got to try to figure out how do I get it from a DVD onto one of these YouTube videos, and I'll put those on there. But my wrestling name was the Ultimate Male, and one of my sayings was, because I had a T-shirt and I used a permanent marker and put UM on there for Ultimate Male, and one of my sayings was, "Yeah, women just call me by my initials." But anyway, we talked crap. We had a lot of fun with it. I'm getting the videos on this somehow. I'll figure it out. But my whole point of this story is that where did that nickname, the Ultimate Male, come from? And now back when I was in Florida, me and another guy, there was three of us, me and two other guys, we picked up girls about the same time and went back to the girls' barracks. And when I came out, there was a group of about 10 guys standing there waiting, and as I'm coming down the stairs, they're applauding. And I got down there, I was like, "What are you guys doing here?" And they said, "Well, we saw you go up there with her when me and the other," I'm not going to say their names, one of them's passed away, drug overdose actually. He was too much of a party animal. But anyway, they saw me going up on the third floor, and so by the time they got up with their girls, it was a few minutes later, and they said they got done and came down, and they were waiting for me for like close to an hour. And they're like, what were you doing up there? I said, we pretty much went straight to having sex. And they're like, no way, you've been up there for an hour. We were down here waiting for you for like 45 minutes. And I was like, well, yeah, what can I say? That's just, we went straight to it, and I got done, pretty much got dressed and came right down. So the guy who was passed away, his name was Mike Flood. Mike Flood drops to his knees and starts doing this, like he's praying to me and saying, "We're not worthy. You are the Ultimate Male." So that was, from then on, that was my nickname. I was the Ultimate Male. So years later, when I got to my ship and we were doing the wrestling thing, I adopted that as my nickname. But a lot of guys on the ship probably do not know where that nickname came from. So that's where it came from. It was down in Florida. It was given to me by Mr. Mike Flood. And God rest his soul. And anyway, if I could think of some more of these funny Navy stories, I'll try to share them with you. And I'm not sure if all of this is going to be on a bunch of different videos, or if I could figure out how to put it on one and not have it too long. But anyway, Hit the subscribe and like and share this with people that might enjoy it. My friends from the Navy on the USS Mississippi. I want to share this with your friends that were on there. Some of them might remember some of these stories or parts of them. Anyway, I appreciate you guys and miss some of you. Don't miss some of you. But anyway, God bless you and have a nice day.